Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. This is a video that I've wanted to make here for a number of days, but I haven't had a chance to. And really I haven't been able to until some things came out in the news because there were things that I wanted to pass on, but because of NDAs and other relationships that I have with my sources, it would have been legally and ethically improper for me to do it. But now some news stories have come out that say exactly what I did want to say. So I'm going to share that for any of you who may not, and I'm sure that most people are just headed up to here with the coronavirus stuff. I hope not, because it's far more serious than most people realize it is. And if you just read if you just see the kind of on the news, the latest daily, even the latest daily press conference, I've watched a couple of Trump's things, and they don't get near. I mean, good. I'm glad they're doing it, and I'm a big fan of Fauci, and Birx. I think she's pretty good. I don't know much about her, but the information you're getting there is just skimming the surface, and you really need to have a lot more than that. So that's what I want to cover on this one. You might remember several weeks ago I said in one of my videos that it's much worse than you think. And I couldn't tell you how I knew, and I couldn't tell you what I knew, but I just felt that I needed to say that. Excuse me. I've got a I've got a lousy stinking sore throat. It hurts like the dickens. I've got a headache. I've got I'm gonna be clearing my throat. I'm a mess, but I don't think it's the big COVID. I think it's what happens to me every year. This time of year, it's seasonal allergies, which I never had during my whole life until about 10 years ago. I was never allergic to anything, and all of a sudden you get older and then you get allergies, I guess, right? So, anyway, I'm going to read this stuff, and what I want now, I can say this. It's what I wanted to say before, but like I said, I have professional relationships with different organizations and people, and I'm restricted as to what I can say, and I don't break those restrictions. If I agree to something, I'm going to keep it. But now this allows me to do it. So I want you to realize that wherever you live, if you live in a large metropolitan area, this is going on in your area. If you live in a smaller area, this is either starting to go on or is going to happen to one extent or another in your area. And even if you live, way out there, sorry, the fact that this is going on in the major centers and the major healthcare delivery centers is going to affect you. So anyway, I'm going to read. The first is a CNN article. I don't know how I came across. Well, probably just going through Drudge, but I don't generally watch CNN. But they have a good story here, and regardless where it comes from, you need to get your information from where you know the information is pretty on track. And I do have the experience and the context to know that this stuff is on track. So I've got about three things I'm gonna read here. I'm also this is going to be the first of two I'm doing tonight. I'm going to call these "The Monster Is Coming," and this first one is going to be on the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. And then the kids and I, and Kelly's off on something else, but we wish she was here, but we'll do it again when she's here. We're going to go out and build a campfire and roast some marshmallows. And then I'm going to come back later tonight probably and do the second one, "The Monster Is Coming," and that's going to be on the coming economic collapse. I think we're headed for a depression, and I want to talk a little bit about what to expect and how to get ready for that. So this one is on the pandemic. We start here. An anesthesiologist in Arizona turned to eBay for N95 masks. And anybody that doesn't know the difference, the N95 is the one you want. Surgical and procedure masks protect other people from you, not you from other people. Okay. A nurse in Ohio said that she and her colleagues are forbidden from wearing any masks for fear that it would spread anxiety. Isn't that something? You can't wear masks to protect yourself in a clinical situation for fear that other people might be worried when they see it. What an odd world we live in, right? A nursing home employee in Arkansas who developed a fever, and she said she couldn't get tested. And there's a number of reasons for that. Across the country, healthcare workers on the front lines of the escalating fight against COVID-19, the disease caused by the novel coronavirus, described a grim scene of rationed personal protective equipment, widely known as PPE, and lack of testing. I'm wearing my Dollar Tree glasses here because my big fancy glasses aren't worth a darn when I'm trying to read something on a computer. So if they slip around a little bit, they only cost $1, so that's why. The scarcity of equipment is at a critical stage, where medical workers are being asked to do something that weeks ago would have brought reprimand or even termination: reusing supplies. I was provided with one mask. They said that's all I'm getting, said a certified nurse anesthetist in Akron, Ohio, who asked not to be identified for fear of reprisal. Yeah. We just had a survey by the Joint Commission. That's an organization that oversees the operations of health care delivery, that oversees the hospital. One of the sticking points in the survey was that you need to change your mask between every case. So dire are the shortages that the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has suggested that healthcare workers bring scarves, bandanas, or makeshift masks from home as a last resort. This is going on everywhere. Okay. And I will caution something here. As one who keeps up on this stuff, I do not look to the CDC as my source of information on very much. I find that they're usually politically driven and way behind the curve. Although many hospitals and clinics are scrambling to refill dwindling supplies, the stories from healthcare workers reflect a shaken American healthcare system that was caught flat-footed by the fast-spreading global pandemic. Healthcare workers who spoke to CNN said that they are not only scared for themselves, their patients, and their families, they are also angry. Scores of them reached out to CNN to share their stories and frustrations. It's unacceptable that we're sending medical professionals like lambs to the slaughter without giving them anything to protect themselves, said Dr. Marianne Hamra, Dollar Tree, who works in New Jersey. Bandanas and scarves? Come on, CDC, that's completely ridiculous, and it is. Dr. Patrice, before this happened, I mean, there were big penalties if you weren't wearing the appropriate PPE for whatever situation you were in. Dr. Patrice Harris, president of the American Medical Association, says that she is hearing from her physicians is just unprecedented. What she's hearing from her physicians is just unprecedented. They are saying that they are having to reuse masks, she said. They are saying that they are being asked to re-sterilize masks, which some can be and some can't be. All things which in normal times we would certainly not do. They may even be grounds for discipline or dismissal for violating routine infection control pieces, policies, and practices. That's exactly right. Interesting. I'll throw in something here. I had a discussion with a command structure at a major hospital having to do with mass casualty and CBN protocols. That's chemical, biological, and nuclear. And and some of them I was explaining that, in my opinion, a lot of their policies were just, they were ridiculous, to be honest. I'll just say that. They were ridiculous. And of course, they have to follow their policies and their chain. And I made the statement that I hold to, that when policy meets reality in a large enough organization, policy is going to win. And that's the problem that we're dealing with now. The different organizations are slow to and like I said, far behind the curve in addressing reality, and so they're following policy, and policy is constantly evolving from one day to the next. It may be, in some cases it's not, but even if it is evolving in the right direction, it is still far behind the curve, which is allowing this thing to even more rapidly spread. Okay. Meanwhile, New York has now topped Washington State as the new epicenter of coronavirus cases. This was written some days ago, but I've been holding this for the time that I could share this. With at least 20,875 infected, the state has also become the epicenter of critically short supplies and staffing. If we don't get more ventilators in the next 10 days, people will die, de Blasio, mayor of New York, said. That's the truth. Ventilators, for anybody who doesn't know, it's what keeps the lungs open and allows the patient to breathe while their lungs fill up, and hopefully while the virus runs its course. So without ventilators, people are going to be dropping like flies. You might have heard how Ford and I think GM is gearing up to start building a lot of ventilators. In New Jersey, 35 physicians and nurses are no longer working at Holy Name Medical Center because they either have or are suspected of having COVID-19. Holy Name Medical Center's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Adam Jarrett, and we're going to get something into in a little bit that's going to address this that I think is probably going to shock you, said so far as supplies and staffing are holding up, and he has not had to compromise care, but he's not sure for how long. I'm very concerned that if things don't slow down, if the supply chains do not open up, if we don't figure out a way to get the nurses in here from the federal government and from the military, I feel in a week or so from now I may not be able to feel the same way. In Arizona, an anesthesiologist said he and his fiancée, who work at the same Phoenix area hospital, have resorted to purchasing N95 masks on eBay. Well, they lucked out because good luck finding them now, from what I hear. I've got them, so I don't need them. Not meaning that like ha you, but I mean, come on, people were not prepared. Even when they saw this coming down the road, they didn't take it seriously soon enough. And haven't we talked about that? Half of meeting a crisis is recognizing it in time, recognizing it and how serious it is. I have a FedEx shipping arriving on Tuesday, but we'll see, said the anesthesiologist, who asked to remain anonymous. Naturally, we are the ones handling the patient's air tubes, so we are really in a bad situation. So here you have anesthesiologists in a hospital setting responsible for administering the air and other anesthesia, and has to buy their own N95 masks from eBay. A nurse in Western Ohio said that save for one specific unit where COVID-19 patients are supposed to be sent, nurses at the medical center are forbidden from wearing masks, not just N95 masks, but surgical masks or any masks. My problem is you don't know who's coming in or out, said the nurse, who asked not to be identified for fear of retaliation. And we're seeing a lot of that. People won't come out and talk. I mean, obviously some people have, but they don't want to be identified. We know there are people who are asymptomatic. That just simply means they have it, but they're not showing symptoms yet. We are not allowed to wear PPE. We are told it would give patients anxiety. I mentioned this to someone just the other day. I said, so people's feelings are more important than the safety of your staff. And they said, yeah, kind of. Okay. Keep that in mind when you think you want to run to the hospital, right? But she said the lack of masks has filled her with anxiety. Yeah, I would guess. I don't want to bring anything home to my kids, she said. I'm a single mom. I signed up to be a frontline worker, but I don't have the equipment to do it. Now, that goes back to simple good management. You don't give somebody a responsibility without giving them the tools to fulfill that responsibility. Okay. And these people out here in healthcare right now are being asked to do things that are far beyond. And I will interject here that when I first started talking about this, I said that I asked many of the healthcare workers that I knew what would be their trigger to leave. And most of them said as soon as they started seeing cases show up, they were gone. Well, that hasn't happened because they are an extremely dedicated group of people. And I know people who are going to work every day and they are swimming in this stuff. And they're still going to work. And some of them have had to well, I'm not going to get into that, but these people are still working to the best of their abilities, and they are in danger every day. Um, I took this job never knowing this is going on with this Ohio nurse. Uh, so fed up was another Ohio nurse that she tendered her resignation on Friday. Okay, I took this job never knowing that if something like this happened, people were not prepared to protect frontline workers. Okay, let's send these soldiers out to fight a war, but you can't have bullets, or you can't have a rifle. You can't have. This is what these people are being asked to do, and some of them are still doing it. Most of them are still doing it. She declined to share her name, obviously. It's like they don't care. I hear that from a lot of people. Either that or they're confused. Okay. In Los Angeles, Dr. Samuel Varadia said he must check out a mask to see a patient who is suspected to have the coronavirus. Okay. To check out a mask, if you know a clinical setting, masks are laying around everywhere. I mean, boxes and boxes of masks. If somebody needs a mask, they reach over and they get a mask and they put it on. They go in and see the patient, and they take it off and they throw it away. Next time they get another mask. Okay, but this guy, he has to check out a mask to see a patient who is suspected to have the coronavirus. And after that, you have to use the mask, he says, the same one, for 5 more patients. Okay. Mila Kowalski, sorry to her, my glasses don't let me see her name very well, a hospital physician in San Diego, helped launch a petition on Change.org calling U.S. physicians, healthcare workers for personal protective equipment in COVID-19 pandemic. Let's see if there's any more that I really want. That's about a Facebook page. Yeah, okay. Many physicians, she said, worry about the ethical implications of institutions saying it's okay to perform procedures without protective gear when it's never been okay before. Are we doing more harm than good by going in there with no equipment and potentially spreading this to so many other people, she said in an interview with CNN. Are we taking out the front lines to our defense when we're so nearly on in the equivalent of a healthcare war right now? Okay. I think that's that pretty much expresses that article right there. I'm going to jump right to the next one here. And this is the reason this is critical is because these are the people who are providing the healthcare, and their ranks are going to quickly be decimated. Okay. Now this came out just a few days ago. And this was covered in the Daily Mail, which interestingly enough, we get much news first from the Brits before we get them from our own people. And I was just today, watching a little bit of the president's daily briefing there. And they're just now starting to come out asking questions about this. This is way late. I'll breathe this. MIT did a study not long ago that shows that, you've been told how the social distancing is 6 feet, stay away 6 feet from people, you're going to be fine, right? Well, MIT, not an organization to be taken lightly, did a study on this, and they found coughs and sneezes. I'll continue this and back up. Can project droplets up to 26 feet. So that's 8 meters. Okay, 26 feet, not 6 feet. I'll capsulize this rather than reading it up. That means a number of things. And they asked Fauci about this today, and he kind of shined it on, to use an old term. He kind of poo-pooed and said he didn't. Well, that's too bad. I'm kind of a fan of his, but he minimized that, and he shouldn't have. What the situation is here is, and the concern, and it goes as you follow this through the MIT study, that once the virus is aerosolized, with a cough or a sneeze, it will survive suspended in the air for a number of hours. So anyone walking through that cloud, you're susceptible. Okay, you're exposed. More than that, in an enclosed environment, the air handlers will pick that stuff up, and as you start having a more dense population of COVID-19 patients in an area, you're going to have more of that picked up in the air handlers and simply redistributed throughout the building wherever you are. So if you're not wearing proper PPE, if you're not wearing essentially at least an N95 and airtight goggles, you're being exposed to it. Okay, that's the concern. And yet many of the people that I speak to say that their organizations are not addressing that, and they feel it's because their organizations are unaware of it. So realize. So this is a matter of a social distancing of 26 feet, which is almost impossible to get in indoors. If that has been now aerosolized and it's pretty much floating around like a soup. So if you're in a healthcare situation, and remember going back, there is something called HAI that anybody in healthcare knows very well. It's called healthcare associated infection, and people die from that. It is something like, I may not get this number exactly right, 1.7 million a year experience in HAI means that they have been infected as a result of their visit to a healthcare professional or institution. Of those, almost 100,000 die every year. We don't hear about that. Okay, you hear about gun deaths, right? Less than 400 people are killed every year with rifles, but you can't turn on the TV without hearing about all the people killed with rifles and firearms. But almost 100,000 people a year die from healthcare associated or healthcare acquired infections. Okay, so here's the next one. This is from it's a New York outlet. Nurses die, doctors fall sick, and panic rises in virus front lines. A supervisor urged surgeons at Columbia University Irving Medical Center in Manhattan to volunteer for the front lines because half the intensive care staff had already been sickened by the coronavirus. Okay, now intensive care staff are highly trained people. You can't just replace those people with somebody who is not of that level. He says, ICU is exploding, she said. Okay. A doctor at Weill Cornell Medical Center in Manhattan described the unnerving experience of walking daily past an intubated, that means they got the tube down there, okay, critically ill colleague in her 30s, for all of you people who just think that this is just kicking the old people's butts, wondering who would be next. Another doctor at a major New York City hospital described it as a petri dish, where more than 200 workers had fallen sick. 2 nurses in city hospitals have died. Realize, as these healthcare people are infected and die, that's fewer people. And also realize that those people could have infected many other people, but those are fewer trained people that there's going to be to treat as this wave grows bigger. The coronavirus pandemic, which has infected more than 30,000 people in New York City. Now, it's many more than that now. I think I looked at just since yesterday, there's been 500 more deaths nationally. So every day we go along, and the spike is going up. The wave is just going up, up, up. It's beginning to take a toll on those who are most needed to combat it, the doctors, nurses, and other workers in hospitals and clinics. In emergency rooms and intensive care units, typically dispassionate medical professionals are feeling panicked as increasing numbers of colleagues get sick. I feel like we're all just being sent to the slaughter sent. So we've heard that before, right? Said Thomas Riley, who has contracted the virus along with his husband. Okay. Medical workers are still showing up day after day to face overflowing emergency rooms, earning them praise as heroes. Thousands of volunteers have signed up to join their colleagues. But doctors and nurses said they can look overseas for a dark glimpse of the risks they are facing, especially when protective gear has been in short supply. Excuse me, I have to cough. Just allergies. I'll take a sip of green tea that my son has me on here. Okay. In China, well, we know about what's happening in China. Besides that, you can't trust any numbers out of China. They've hidden most of their numbers. Why anybody quotes anything out of China is beyond me, so we'll skip that. New York City's healthcare system is sprawling and disjointed, making precise infection rates among medical workers difficult to calculate. Yeah. A spokesman for the Health and Hospitals Corporation, which runs New York City's public hospitals, said the agency would not share data about sick medical workers at this time. William P. Jackie's, president of the American College of Emergency Physicians, said the situation across the country was too fluid to begin tracking such data, but he said he expected the danger to intensify. Yes, so is everybody else. Doctors are getting sick everywhere. Last week, 2 nurses in New York, died from the disease. They are believed the first known victims among the city's medical workers. Not going to be the last. Healthcare workers across the city said they feared many more would follow. Yes. I'm swimming in this, said the previous O'Reilly. I'm pretty sure I'm getting this. And as I talk to more and more of the frontline healthcare people, they've almost accepted. A lot of them say to me, they figure they're going to get it. They're just hoping they're going to survive. Okay, here's one. I hate this because the guy's got the same name as me. This is stupid. Like generals steadying their troops before battle, hospital supervisors in New York have had to rally, cajole, and sometimes threaten workers. Our healthcare systems are at war with a pandemic virus. Craig R. Smith, the surgeon-in-chief, that's because that's what close friends call me, Craig. The surgeon-in-chief of the New York Presbyterian Hospital wrote in an email to staff on March 16, the day after New York City shut down its school system to contain the virus. You are expected, this is what he's telling his people, you are expected to keep fighting with whatever weapons you're capable of working. Now, I would have expected that you would want to keep workers who were exposed away from the healthcare delivery situation. That would be my expectation, and probably yours as well. And I think that around here, from what I hear from most of the people, it is. The ones that I've heard of around this area, when they start showing signs, they are immediately removed, and that's the way it ought to be. But apparently that's not the way it is in New York. Sick is relative, he wrote, adding that workers would not even be tested for the virus unless they were, quote, unequivocally exposed and symptomatic to the point of needing admission to the hospital. That means you come to work, he wrote, period. Okay, this is so irresponsible as to be ludicrous. We know that the incubation time for this, or a person can be infectious for a long period of time before they're symptomatic. Simply means they have symptoms. They show this, cough, fever, things like this. They're symptomatic through that whole time, and then it can linger for a long time after they no longer are symptomatic. So he's saying regardless of that, you come to work. Okay, there's more of this, but I'm going to stop it right there because I think that's enough, and that allows me to pass on information that I've been wanting to, but really couldn't, because these come from news outlets, either national or in New York. Wherever you live, it's headed your way, and you need to have an understanding of what the potential. Oh man, this video has gone way long. I apologize for that. What the potential is. I'll say a word to the people out there who still aren't taking this seriously. Probably not many of them watching this. But if you know those people, I would say this. If you are just sloughing this off and don't take it serious, you are potentially adding to the problem. Okay? Because you won't be taking the right precautions. You stand a good chance of passing this on to the people, and other people are going to suffer because of your cavalier attitude. Well, anyway, I'm sorry for the length of this. For those of you who are still here, I'm going to come back in a little bit and make hopefully a shorter one. It won't have to be this long because I'm not going to read a bunch of stuff. I'm just going to explain some things about the second monster that is coming, and it is huge. It is a catastrophic economic situation. And I'm going to talk about how to get ready for it, what to do with it. Okay. Thanks for sticking it out this long if you have. Again, sorry for the length, and I will get back and talk to you in a little bit. Bye-bye.